What is up, guys? Stark here. In today's video, I am doing the overview of all of the characters that I missed in the character spotlight. Now, what I decided to do here was, instead of just making one video that would probably be like an hour long or something crazy like that, I'm gonna split it up into different parts, and each part will focus on one of the different classes. So we'll go like Sabers, Archers, Lancers, Casters, things like that. So each one of those will have their own video, and then I'll do one video at the end with all the other ones that don't fit into like a big class, like Shielders, Rulers, Avengers. So I think that is a good way of doing it, as opposed to doing like 100 characters or whatever it is all at once. But yeah, I'm just gonna quickly go through the characters and kind of show off their ranks. It's not gonna be that in depth as far as like spotlights and stuff go, because I've already done the videos, but I will show them with the updated card, and I'll talk about their stats and stuff, maybe a little bit of detail on the characters. But yeah, I also made like a little tier rank thing, which I'm going to show up on the screen here for you guys, and this will keep track of all of the characters in their specific tiers. I have them split up into different ranks, so as I go through the video, I'll explain them. Now this is the first time, so I'll be more in depth with the explanations, and then the next videos, they'll just pop up on the screen. But for now, let's go ahead and get started here with the D tier. So the D tier is going to be anyone that I rank from 0 to 2.4 overall, and as you guys can see on the screen, there are two characters. So the way this is going to work is, you'll see the characters, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the characters in that tier, and then I'll come back and then we'll talk about the next tier. So first up here, which is going to be my worst ranked servant, and I'm sure that's not surprising to anyone, is going to be Gilderaz. So this character tries very hard to be Berserker, and he fails at it pretty badly. He is very unique though, which is really cool, because he's definitely an exception to most characters. It's just unfortunate that he's really not that good. So overall here for his stats, he gets a 1.8. For his skills, he gets a 2.5. For his Noble Phantasm, Survivability, and Versatility, he will get a 2. And for his overall ranking, he will get a 2.1. As I said, he's a Saber that tries to be a Berserker, and he does have some pretty solid damage, but honestly, he just doesn't really compete with Berserkers or Sabers, really. He's got really low stats, you know. For being a wannabe Berserker, he ranks 90th overall in max attack, which is really ridiculous if you ask me. You know, he doesn't have 3 Buster cards, he can't make Buster Brave change. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. His Noble Phantasm doesn't even deal damage, so, and it's an Arch to begin with. So, like, it was a nice try, but overall it just fell really flat. So next up in the D tier is going to be our Toria Pendragon, Lily. Now, she is a 4-star who was the pre-order bonus for, you know, the game, so it wasn't really expected her to be that good. She's kind of just a beginner servant to help you kind of go along in the beginning of the game. She did come back in Saber Wars to have, you know, her event, and you can max out her Noble Phantasm, which makes her a little bit better. But overall, she still is one of the worst servants, or at least one of the worst Sabers in the game. So as for her ranks, she's going to get 2.5 in stats, skills, and Noble Phantasm, and then she will have 2 in survivability and versatility, which will bring her overall to a 2.3 out of 5. So overall for this character, while she's not especially bad, she's pretty much outclassed by every single other Saber face character in the Saber class. So if you have any of those characters, you're going to obviously be taking them over her, because she doesn't really offer too much outside of the other Saber characters, which, I mean, it makes sense. She's Saber Lily, so she is a younger, less experienced version of her older self, who you'd much rather opt for if you could. She does have a pretty good Noble Phantasm, especially if it's level 5 with the Saber Wars event, and that can do some pretty solid damage, which is nice for farming. But like again, like I said, outside of that, you probably just want to opt for her more experienced older version. So now moving on here to the C tier. This is going to be any character ranked from 2.5 to 3.0. And as you guys can see here, there are 4 characters that are in this list, and let's go ahead and talk about them. First up is going to be Gaius Julius Caesar. Now, this character, I feel like, was definitely underranked, in my opinion, and that's primarily because of his stats. So, he is definitely towards the higher end of the C tier, maybe even the lower B tier, but his stats do kind of bring him down just a little bit. So he is a 3-star Saber. So for his star rankings, he's going to get a 2 in stats, 3 in skills, 2.5 in Noble Phantasm and survivability, and a 3.5 in versatility, giving his overall ranking a 2.7. So again, like I said, you guys can see here that his stats definitely bring his rank down. I was really hoping I can get him into that lower B tier, but unfortunately his stats are just not good enough to get him into that tier. He's very versatile. He's got a very good assortment of skills that he can use on his allies, which is definitely very helpful, and it's something that I missed honestly when I first went through and ranked this character. You know, I kind of overlooked how versatile this character could be. He's got a very good kit of skills, especially after his rank up quest, which makes him a lot more usable. And then he does, like I said, he's got a very good kit of skills. He can do a lot of bonuses, a lot of buffs, and overall he could just find himself in a lot of different team setups. So next up is Siegfried, who is going to be a 4-star Saber, and a lot of people give Siegfried a lot of crap for not being that good of a servant, but honestly, I don't think he's that bad of a servant. He does have some of the highest HP stats in the game, despite being a 4-star, and you know, if you're going against any type of dragon enemy, he's going to absolutely destroy them. And there are quite a few dragons in the game, especially in the earlier chapters, so if you do get this character early on in the game, he's going to be one of your better allies to use. As for his star ranks, first up for his stats, he's going to get a 3.8. For his skills and Noble Phantasm, he's going to get 2.5. For his survivability, he will get 3 stars, and his versatility, he will get 2 stars. So this is a pretty tanky character who mainly focuses on killing dragons and primarily only focuses on that. That's why his versatility is a little bit lower, because he's only really useful against dragons. But if you are going against a dragon, you could definitely consider this character to be in a tier higher than what he is normally. Moving on here into the C tier, we have Furgus. Now he's going to be right at the edge of the C tier, and he is a 3-star Saber. So Furgus is a very solid servant overall, and he does have a really powerful Noble Phantasm that you can, you know, get off and do some really crazy damage with him, and he does have a few skills that can help increase his stats. He's got a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. So overall, he's a very good, kind of like I said, really right near the edge of the C tier. And then for his star rings, he's going to have a 2.1 in stats, which again is going to drop him down a tier just because of his low stats. And then for his skills and Noble Phantasm, he's going to get 3.5. And then for his survivability, he will get 3, and versatility will get a 2.5. Overall, giving him a 2.9 out of 5, just barely missing the cutoff of the B tier. So again, this character is very good. He's got a very strong Noble Phantasm, and after you do his interlude quest, you know, it'll be like that much more powerful. And he does have very good attack and defense buffs, as well as an evasion. So this character can pretty much stand on his own and take down, you know, waves of enemies. Next up, and the final member of the C tier, is going to be our Toria Pendragon. So she is the original poster girl, one of them anyway, for Fate, and it's a little unfortunate that she finds herself in the C tier, although she just barely misses out on the C tier. But you would think that a character like this would be one of the characters people want to get the most because she's so popular, but you know, she's really just a starter servant, very average, doesn't do a whole lot. She does have really good stats though. She'll get 5 stars in stats, and she'll get 2.5 stars in everything else. She's kind of just an average servant who's just primarily there to be a beginner servant, and you know, once you get her, you can use her, and then when you get better things, you can move on. So that is a bit unfortunate, but it does overall give her a 3 out of 5 ranking, just at the very edge of the C tier. So there's really not much else to say about this character. She does do some solid damage. She's a 5-star with 5-star stats, so she's definitely going to be like usable just for her stat sake. But overall, as far as skills and effects and things like that, she's not going to really stand out too much. She does have charisma, which is really nice. Anytime you have a charisma, it's definitely going to help your team composition, getting that boost to all of your allies. But overall, she's just a very bland, average servant. So now moving on here to the B tier. This is going to be the bulk of the servants for the Sabers, and this will be anyone rated from 3.1 to 3.5. So first up on the B tier is going to be Mordred. So she is a slightly better version of her father, and she is a 5-star Saber as well, and she will also have 5-star stats. As for her skills, she will get 3 out of 5 for skills, and then 2.5 in Noble Phantasm, versatility, and survivability. Overall giving her a 3.1, just slightly ahead of our Toria. Now this is primarily because of her 3rd skill, which is going to remove all of her debuffs and increase her defense, as well as increase her Noble Phantasm gauge. So she's trading charisma for this, which is a little bit, you know, less on the team composition, but a little bit more on her self-preservation and allowing her to combat enemies by herself that much easier. But just being able to increase your Noble Phantasm gauge as well as your defense, I feel like that is just a little bit better than having that. It's not even like that good of a charisma buff. She does also have a pretty unique Noble Phantasm that she will deal special damage to Arthur enemies, and there are a lot of them in the game. So overall, she's just a tad bit better than our Toria Pendragon. So next up in the B tier, we have Rama, who is going to be a 4-star Saber that will get a 3.8 out of 5 in stats, a 3 out of 5 in skills, Noble Phantasm, survivability, and a 2.5 in versatility, overall granting him a 3.1 out of 5. So Rama is a very good servant who is a much needed change of pace from the saber face characters who pretty much populate this saber class. He could do a ton of damage, and he does have a charisma skill as well, and he does have guts, so he can help his survivability just a little bit more, and his Noble Phantasm can do some pretty stupid damage, especially if you're going against a demonic enemy. It is a single target though, but it's going to do a tremendous amount of damage, and he is really good at crit damage as well. So overall, he's just a very solid, very powerful servant. So next up we have Ryoga Chicky. Now she is a 5-star saber, and this is kind of the opposite of, like, say, a Caesar or Furgus, who her stats make her ranked a little bit higher than what maybe she should be. She does get a 4.9 in stats, and then for her skills she'll get 2.5. Noble Phantasm and survivability are going to be 3 out of 5, and her versatility will be 2.5, which will give her overall a 3.2 out of 5. Again, now this is a case of her skills making her rank a little bit higher, but you know, it is what it is. She does have very good stats, although she won't be doing that much damage overall. She is primarily focused more on the arts setup than like Buster or dealing damage, and she does have some pretty interesting effects. However, she does have a fatal flaw with her third skill. While her skill does help her survivability more, it also decreases her Noble Phantasm gauge. So unless you have multiple copies of Chicky and have her Noble Phantasm leveled up, in which case if you do, then it's a fantastic skill, but most people will not have her at level 2 or higher. So if you use her third skill, you can't use her Noble Phantasm on the same turn. She does have a very good Noble Phantasm though, with the pretty good chance of doing death, so it's really good on a wave clear for like fodders and things like that for farming, if you combo that with her first skill, which will increase the death chance for all the enemies. Next up on the B tier is Chevalier Daon. He is a really unique servant for the Saber class, as he functions primarily as a tank rather than a damage dealer, but he does have really good stats as well, ranking 3.9 overall in stats. As for his skills, he'll get 3 out of 5 stars. His Noble Phantasm is one of his weaker points, getting a 2 out of 5, but his survivability is one of the highest in the Saber class, getting him 4 out of 5 stars, and that makes his versatility overall a 3 out of 5, granting him a 3.2 out of 5 overall for his rank. So as I said earlier, Chevalier focuses primarily as a tank as opposed to a damage dealer, and his skill set greatly helps him in that, having his first skill to increase his defense as well as applying evasion, and he does also have a taunt skill to help take heat off of your allies as well as healing him. It's a very good combination, and Chevalier will be very difficult to kill while taking all that damage from your allies. His Noble Phantasm is pretty weak though, as it doesn't do any damage, and it does do a few debuffs with the decrease to attack and defense, as well as the chance to inflict charm, but overall it is a just very lackluster Noble Phantasm, one of the worst in the Saber class. But that doesn't really take away from the fact that this character is very good at its job, and its job is to tank hits, not really deal damage. So in that regards, he does very good. Next up in the B tier is going to be our Toria Pendragon Alter. So Saber Alter here is much like her counterparts in her kit and her skills and her Noble Phantasm and everything like that. However, her Noble Phantasm is significantly stronger than all of them, with the exception of Saber Lily after her rank up quest and at Noble Phantasm level 5. But her skills and everything else and her stats make up for that. So yeah, there's not much else to say here outside of the fact that she works pretty much the same as regular Sabers, with the exception of she just does more damage. As for her ranking, she's going to have a 3.8 in stats, a 3.5 out of 5 in skills. I'm giving her a 4 in Noble Phantasm because it does some pretty ridiculous damage. And then for her survivability and versatility, she's going to get a 2.5 out of 5, which will give her a overall ranking of a 3.2 out of 5. Next up in the B tier is Altera. Now we're getting to the higher ends of the B tier, and she is a 5-star Saber who will also have 5 stars in stats. A lot of Sabers really do have some really good balance, like really high stats for HP and attack. For her skill and Noble Phantasm, she'll get 3 out of 5 stars, as well as her survivability, she'll get 3 stars. For her versatility, she will get 2.5 stars, which will overall give her a 3.3 out of 5. So Altera is pretty much your go-to option if you have her for AoE Noble Phantasms. For Sabers, she has insanely high stats, and she has a very good kit of skills that will help her along the way, being able to further increase her Noble Phantasm strength and increase her own attack, And she does have some good survivability as well, giving herself a self-heal on her second skill. And then for her Noble Phantasm, she does do some really good damage. Maybe not as much as Saber Alter, but she does do a really good amount of damage overall in her own right. And she does have the boost to her Noble Phantasm strength. So overall, it's just a very solid Noble Phantasm. You're going to do a ton of damage, and she's very good for wave clearing and farming. So next up we have Nero Claudius, who is going to be the final member of the B tier. So she is a 4-star Saber that will rank 3.5 overall in stats. For her skills and Noble Phantasm, she'll get a 3 out of 5. Her survivability will grant her 4 stars, and her versatility will give her 2.5 stars, which give her overall ranking a 3.3 out of 5. So Nero is an exceptional servant with a little bit of a flaw in her second skill, having only a chance to do the buffs. If she didn't have a chance and it was just a full out 100% rate for her skills, then she would be absolutely insane. All 3 of her skills provide her survivability, especially her last skill giving her guts 3 times over the course of 5 turns. She's just going to be a tank, especially if she's put in last on your team and she's coming out fighting by herself. She will completely shred enemy waves, and her Noble Phantasm does some really good damage as well. It is an arts card, which is a little bit of a drawback for not being able to do Buster Chains, but she does make up for that with the enhanced damage, and she can do Arts Chains, which will help her Noble Phantasm gauge be increased that much faster. And if you do get her buffs off, she's going to do a tremendous amount of damage. So now moving on here to the A tier. Now in this tier, it'll be any character ranked from 3.6 to 4.0, and in this tier we have 2 characters, the first one being Nero Claudius Bride, or Bride Nero. So Nero is a very good servant. She is more of a support saver than like an offensive attack dealer, but she does have some very good stats, ranking 5 stars in her overall stats. And for her skill, she will get 3.5 out of 5. Her Noble Phantasm will be a 2.5 out of 5. Her survivability will be a 3 out of 5, and her versatility will be a 3 out of 5, giving her an overall ranking of a 3.5 out of 5. So as I said, she is more of a support saber than anything, but she does have some very good skills. All of them, are very useful in their own rights, being able to increase Noble Phantasm gain, attack, and heal. You could use those on herself, you could use them on an ally. It depends on what situation you're in and what you want to do. And then she also does have a arts heavy deck, having 3 arts, so she can do Arts Chains to get her Noble Phantasm used more often. Although it is not really the best Noble Phantasm out there, it is going to do a pretty serious amount of damage to a single enemy, and it does do a whole bunch of debuffs as well. So overall, it is a very solid Noble Phantasm. She is a very good support saber to use, and overall she's just a very good servant, one of the best sabers in the game. So next up here is the final saber and the highest ranked saber overall in my opinion, and that is going to be Ogitta Soji. So Ogitta here is going to be one of 2 sabers that primarily focus on doing crits and quick damage, and she is an absolute monster at that. And overall, I do believe she is the top ranked saber in the game currently on the global server. As for her stats, she does fall short here at a 4.9 out of 5, but she does have a very good set of skills and a very good Noble Phantasm, ranking 3.5 out of 5 for each of them. And then for her survivability, it's a little bit lower at 3, but she is pretty good at survivability. And then her versatility is a 3.5, overall giving her a 3.7 out of 5. So yeah, overall, this character is just an absolute monster. As I keep saying, she'll do a tremendous amount of damage, especially if she's, on quick teams. But you can throw her on buster teams as well. You can throw her onto pretty much any team. She is pretty self-sufficient. She can take care of herself. She has, a attack boost for her quick cards. She has a defensive skill to keep her alive, to like dodge Noble Phantasms and things like that. And that defensive skill even increases her crit strength. So you're going to get both offense and defense from that skill. And her Noble Phantasm is just going to do a ridiculous amount of damage, and that will ignore defense as well. So overall, she is just a tremendous servant. And as I keep saying, she is, in my opinion, the best saber servant currently available in the game. And she will maintain that rank for quite a while, and even going forward in the Japan's current meta, she is still a pretty solid servant overall. So as for the rest of the tiers, there are 3 extra tiers that I have added. The first one being the S tier, which will be any character that ranks from 4.1 to 4.5, and then for the SS tier, there is going to be characters from 4.6 all the way up to 5, which will be the highest ranking I could give. There are no sabers that currently make it into these classes, so just gonna leave those blank for now. And then the final tier, I did have a little bit of space left on the graphic, so I decided to do something a little bit fun, and I made a Stark tier. Now this tier is completely unrelated to anything. It is just the characters that I personally want. I might already have them, but overall these are just the list of characters that I would like to get at some point in the game. So that would be both versions of Nero Claudius, Ogitta, Mordred, and Rama. Now like I said, these could be for any reasons at all. You know, 2 of them are because of their voice actress, and Ogitta is just a monster, so she's just a really good servant and I want her overall. But yeah, it's just a fun little thing that I'd like to do at the end of the video, just kind of, after talking about all the characters, just go ahead and show you which ones that I actually am trying to get personally. Now at the moment I do only have Bride Nero, so I will have to work a little bit harder on getting the rest of them. But I'm sure eventually they will come to me. So yeah guys, that's going to wrap up this video here. I know it's the first one, so it's kind of maybe a little bit longer than I would have liked. I don't really know how long it's going to end up being after I edit it and stuff like that. But right now I'm at like 40 minutes of talking. So I'm really glad I decided to break this up into separate videos. Otherwise this would be a much longer video than I originally anticipated. But I hope you guys enjoyed the format of it, and as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with my rankings, and that's fine. You feel free to post in the comments who you think I messed up on, who you think I got right. You know, maybe I ranked someone too high, maybe I ranked someone too low. Let me know, but you know, as always guys, these are just my opinions, and you're free to your opinions, so let's just, you know, play nice in the comments. It's just my overall opinion on my characters. You're free to have your opinions as well. But that's it guys, that's wrapping up this video here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord, and I will see you guys next time.